Well, there I am. Restream changed a bunch of stuff and I was confused. Good morning. Peace and blessings to you, DBO. How are you doing this morning? Who else is here? Who else is here? Speak up. Speak up and or forever hold your peace or whatever it is that people say at times like this. Good morning. Welcome to Friday morning tech coffee to coffee with me, Jason T. Lewis, painfully honest tech, doing the thing, as it were. I'm going to bring my mic closer to my mouth so I can do this. Dylan, good to see you. Good to see you. Jonathan is here. Good to see you. Yeah, we're doing the thing. Yeah, so I just got off another live stream like a half hour ago. I was on with a bunch of people, and it was fun, and it got me warmed up for this. And one of the things that I learned in this, so it was a lot of creators, but also people who like consult with creators and help creators. It was put on by Rob Balasabas, who works at TubeBuddy, and so I was like, hey, how do I do the TikToks? Because I don't understand the TikToks. But no, I mean I understand the TikToks. I just don't know that that I have anything to offer the TikToks because most of what I see on the TikToks is young people with good looking young people, and I don't have that to offer. So, but yeah, it was good. It was good. Mini reviews. That's what people suggested. Mini reviews. So I will be mini reviewing things, I suppose. Yeah. So how's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? So what has happened this week? This has been a crazy, well, I mean, has it been a crazy week? No, it's not been really a crazy week, but every week kind of feels weirdly crazy. Yeah, I got 2 videos out. I feel good about that. Yesterday's video was pretty fun. Insane Clown Posse back in the house. Good to see you. Paul is here too. Good to see you, Paul. So yeah, I mean, I got a couple of videos out. I got a video plan for tomorrow. Like, I'm trying desperately to make content that I want people to watch, not necessarily content that people want to watch. It's my new YouTube strategy. Make content you want people to watch, not content that people watch. So I got a microphone review, a new microphone from the folks over at Epos, which used to be the gaming side of Sennheiser. They have made a microphone called the B20, and it is pretty cool. I actually was just using it for the last live stream because, again, I hate this. Apple used to be the company that was super reliable when Apple used to be super reliable when it came to like audio and stuff like that. But man, I went back to my MacBook because I was missing Final Cut and I was missing Logic and I was just missing Apple related things, and I needed to do the Apple Music related stuff. So I went back to my MacBook. I have the iMac 24-inch upstairs, but I haven't pressed that into like super interesting duties yet. I said duty. And man, I tell you what, audio gear does not want to work with friggin' Big Sur, not even on the Intels. My computer's been bogging down. It's been beach balling. It's been doing all this crazy stuff. I've like super deep cleaned and everything else, and it's just a miserable experience. It's a miserable experience, and I thought to myself, well, my only other option is to either A, go buy a newer MacBook with an Intel processor that costs 3 times as much as the M1 MacBooks, right? Or I could just get by with this, or I could go back to Windows and say, forget it. But yeah, it's very frustrating because I like the stuff that I'm using. I just don't like that it's not working. Jonathan asks, how do you came up with your recent logo? How'd you do that? I actually had someone reach out to me on Twitter who is a graphic designer and offered to work with me on some new branding for the channel. And so I need to get his official info and put it in my info in my little info block in the descriptions, because I think he did pretty good work. He made me look thinner in the logo. I like it. but yeah, so that I worked with somebody who did a really good job. Let's see. Gordy asks, how would you compare any of the USB Dragonfly DACs with the DAC in the LG smartphones? Now, I don't have a ton of experience with the Dragonflies. I will say that the LG DACs do hold their own when it comes to like the lower end price DACs. They are very good. Having not used, I would expect that the more expensive Dragonflies would outdo the LG DACs, but I don't want to say definitely not knowing the Dragonflies extremely well. So I just charged up my V50 again, and for a while, for the first time in a while, because I sold my S21 Ultra, because I wasn't going to use it anymore. I guess I'm going to have to get one of these flippy phones, these things. So I gotta start saving my pennies for that. Have I thought about downgrading to Catalina from Big Sur? I thought about it, but without even doing any research, I assumed that it would be a huge pain in the butt to do that. So I haven't done it, because now I got all this like Big Sur, like all the M1 and Big Sur related stuff on the computer. So I don't know. I just thought maybe it's not a big pain in the butt. I just sort of wrote it off as like probably being a pain. Any good M1 Macs on sale? I mean, honestly, if I was going to get anything to replace this MacBook, it would probably be a Mac Mini, and that's fine, right? But the problem with the Mac Mini is that the only one that you can buy off the shelf, you can buy the 256 or the 512 gigabyte versions with 8 gigabytes of RAM. And, I still feel like, I'd rather have 16, but 16 is like a 2-week wait. And I don't know if I'll survive 2 weeks with this level of frustration. So yeah, I don't know. Does anybody know? Is it a big pain in the ass to downgrade to Catalina from Big Sur, or from, like a newer operating system on the Mac down to something else? Because yeah, I'm so bummed out because I have a 2006 Mac Pro, and I put, I think, 64 gigabytes of RAM in it, and it works amazingly. But now all of the apps that I use for critical stuff are 64-bit apps, and it can't run 64-bit apps. So now I can't use it. It's very, very frustrating. Anyway, it is very frustrating. So Windows 11 expected out in October. So I didn't watch the Windows event. I mean, life is too short to do something like that. I didn't watch the Windows 11 event, but I did go and watch Dave Lee's video on Windows 11, and I also watched Marques Brownlee's video on the M1, or the Windows 11. And my takeaway was they've got some cool improvements to the UI. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot different about it, other than, I mean, it looks more like a Mac now, but which doesn't bother me. It's a very clean looking operating system. I appreciate that. It's been a little blocky. Windows 10 has not aged incredibly well with the really blocky tiles and stuff like that. I like, the Snap Workspace stuff that they introduced. And if you're not familiar with what this is, Windows has always done better with Snap. They've I guess, kind of pioneered or were the first to implement snap features into the operating system where you could snap a window to the side or to the top quarter, bottom quarter, things like that. And so you could do multi-window work more easily. But now when you hover over it, it gives you a bunch of different options to put things into different configurations. So you could have like, one wider app and two smaller apps, or like, just a bunch of different configurations, which there are apps for the Mac that you can get that will run, and you can do that. And I've done that in the past. I don't know why I'm not doing it right now, but yeah, so yeah, it looks pretty cool. You can run Android apps on Windows now, as long as you first download the Amazon App Store to your computer, and then you can download any Amazon Android app from the Amazon App Store to run on Windows. Which is convoluted, but I guess once you do it the first time, it doesn't matter. You just have to have an Amazon account and a Windows account. And if you're using Windows, you have a Windows account. And is there anybody in the developed world that doesn't have an Amazon account now? I mean, Amazon is pretty ubiquitous at this point. But my question is, like, why would you want to run an Android app? Yeah, you're side loading from a side load is exactly what you're doing. Why would you want to do that? Is the big question. And I guess there are some things that I can think of, like, would you like, you could use TikTok, you could use Instagram, right? You could just run Android in a virtual machine. You could do that, but I mean, I think they're trying to make doing that like kind of an easier thing, right? So yeah, it doesn't look like there's really anything all that crazy. Like Dave Lee always plays Overwatch, so he's been playing Overwatch and playing games, and he hasn't noticed anything weird. He said it's surprisingly stable for like almost like a secret leaked beta at this point. It's not coming out as somebody said in the chat. It's not coming out until October, or sometime in the fall. So yeah, it looks interesting, and computer, like, we're in a weird place in the computer world right now, in the sense that Apple, while they have incredible hardware, the software is kind of a mess right now. And that makes it really difficult for people who, want to do their serious work on Mac, if they want new hardware or if they want to use the new operating system. And I appreciate Dylan's primer on how to do the rollback. Rollback is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, right now I have a Time Machine backup running, as well as a server backup for a lot of stuff, as well as it's, the stuff I'm currently working on sits on the desktop or in the regular hard drive. So I could do that easily. Man, I don't know if you've ever had a hard drive fail. I did have a hard drive fail. Probably, I think it was back in 2008. And it was an OWC hard drive. OWC is a great company. They've been around forever. I bought this hard drive because I was doing music work, and the OWC hard drives were well known for being some of the most reliable at the time. I don't know. I haven't bought one for a while, so I don't know how they are these days. And I think it was just a 250 gigabyte hard drive, which, is fine. Maybe 500. I can't remember. Anyway, I was working on a record with a band, and I didn't have any decent hardware backups, like solutions. I had another external hard drive on a Windows machine, so it was on the network, and I was backing things up like once a week. And one Sunday morning, I went down to work on mixes for this record that I was working on, and I was coming down the stairs. And as I came down the stairs, I just heard. I was like, oh. I'd never heard that sound before, but I knew that it couldn't be good. And it wasn't. It wasn't. The hard drive was dead, and so I think that event all by itself brought my anxiety and my anxiety levels to a whole different new place. So yeah, I called like a local Mac repair guy. He ran his, wizard stick over it. And he was like, I don't know, you could send it to a clean room and try and get the stuff off, but it'll cost you $1,000 or whatever. And that wasn't possible. OWC replaced it. I mean, it was under warranty and they replaced it. I had a new one very quickly, and I lost a week's worth of work, which was no actual tracks. I just lost mixes. So I had to remix everything, which was, it was. I mean, I imagine there's software out there, like Compono says, it's sort of amazing how much it costs to get data recovery. But I think there are better apps out there now that can at least do a better job of digging into a hard drive. But yeah, after that, I got like 3 hard drives and I backed up manually, and I used a time machine backup, and I did all the stuff. And I'm not as diligent about it now as I probably was for a while after that, but I do have stuff backed up pretty well. I really need to, because I have like, Google Drive, I have iCloud, I have hard drives, I have all this stuff. I really need to it would probably take me like 2 weeks to just go through and put everything in the place that it needs to be, so it goes to all the places that it should be backed up. But the truth of the matter is, like, when it comes to YouTube stuff, I don't really care. Like, as long as it's available on YouTube to re-download, a lot of this stuff that, you make videos, so many videos, that it would be impossible to have the hard drive. Well, not impossible, but it would be really cost prohibitive to have the amount of hard drive space that you would need to save everything. So I delete projects that are like more than a year old. And even sometimes I delete stuff that's more than 6 months old. It's YouTube. Who cares? But yeah. So super chat from Scott. Thank you. $4.99 super chat from Scott. He asks, have you ever heard of Hidiz? No, I haven't. It sounds familiar, but is it a headphone company, I imagine? Just ordered the Drop 6XXs. Nice, man. Nice. You'll have to let me know how they sound. I hope you use the Painfully Honest Tech affiliate link. Because, daddy needs to eat. Anyway, yeah. So data security is it's a lot better now than it was 10 or so years ago. 10 or so years ago, before the advent of saving everything in the cloud, people would lose their pictures. People would lose all of their. I mean, I used to make like CD-ROM drives backing up my writing folder and taking it to like the safe deposit box, because, the house that we lived in at the time had a penchant for flooding. So I didn't want to lose anything that way. But yeah, now that the cloud is easier and more prevalent, it's made backups. It's made backups easier. Okay, Hidiz is a DAC company, headphone and DAC company. Okay, no, I haven't heard them. I'll look them up. I'll look them up for sure. See, there was some. Oh, Gordy asks, what makes The Panasonic earbuds for $10 on Amazon, so good. Uh, Fairy dust, magic. I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know. But they've been really good for a long time, and so I. The truth of the matter is, a lot of the stuff that we pay a lot of money for is not really all that expensive to make. So there's a lot. I mean, there's obviously marketing and transport and wholesale versus retail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things that go into how much something costs, but Panasonic has been making those headphones for so long that their sort of out of pocket cost to develop them, or to do what they needed to do to get them to market, has long been paid off. So they're probably making money hand over fist for selling those things for like $10. And I think the ones that have a microphone are $12 or somewhere around there. It shifts back and forth by, a 50 cents or $1 every once in a while, but they are really good. And I've always said, like, if you have, well, these days, who has a device that has headphone jack? But they're like the perfect headphones for kids, because kids always destroy their headphones no matter what. And so having $10 headphones to replace them with, really good. So the Panasonics that I'm talking about are, I forget exactly what the name of them are, but let me look here real quick. I'll bring them up for you. Panasonic. Ah, yes. The Ergo Fit. That's what they're called. Let me pull them out here and share the screen. So here they are. The Ergo Fit. I can pull a link for you, and I forgot. These are so cheap that you can't do like affiliate things for them, but they are really good. These are the ones with the microphone. They are more expensive than I've seen them in the past by about $5, I guess. Yeah. They used to be like $12, but with no mic, how much are they now? With no mic, $16. That's crazy. So this is probably yet another casualty of the shortage of stuff out there. I mean, still at like $16, $17, they're a huge bargain. But yeah, they've always been $9 or $10 for no mic and $12 or so for mic. But they are really, really good. They are really, really good. If you're looking for something like, workout headphones or whatever, or just like bangers that you can take with you to the office, when you're commuting or whatever, they're highly worth it for sure. New Xbox wireless headset, like Xbox, or is it supposed to be Xbox or is it Zox? I don't know. I don't know everything. Yeah, I have the headphones that I'm using for the Xbox right now are the Audi's Penrose, and they are very good. They are very good. But honestly, like, I have not played any game. I was talking about this the other day. I've not played any games for a long time. My buddy Curtis doesn't want to play Warzone, and I'm always reluctant to just like, not reluctant to, but too lazy to get on and play by myself. Even though I know there'll be somebody on there that I know that's playing. So yeah, I haven't been playing much games at all, and I feel bad because I've got the PS5, I've got the Xbox One Series X. I feel like I'm hoarding valuable technology that could be used by others more more easily, more readily. Um, Moomin says, when I download my videos from YouTube, the compression is horrendous, even at 1080p. Yeah, yes, it is. It is not cinema quality. I will agree with you on that. But but yeah, it's I I just I don't know. I kind of feel like as long as it exists somewhere, then I'm fine. I'm a little bit more when it comes to writing or music stuff. I'm a little bit more. Uh, let's see, more cautious. More, I care more, I guess. Um, oh, Scott's gonna on a on Warzone on the Activision store. My my gamer tag is Instakarma with a lowercase l. I don't remember what the numbers are though. So yeah, I haven't played. I saw Returnal. I haven't played that. I haven't done Rocket League. I was terrible at Rocket League the first few times that I tried. Um, but I imagine it looks great on the C9. I yeah. I have the C9. I am always impressed with how good things look on it. But the thing that I watch most on my TV right now is YouTube videos. I'm too lazy to even pick something to watch. I just graze YouTube the same way that I used to graze like TV channels when we had TV channels. So yeah, Richard, good to see you. Grandfathering is, I mean, I still can't believe that I'm saying that, but it's cool. It's cool. Like, you know, my, my son's girlfriend is living with us, baby's here all the time. She takes care of him most of the day. My wife and I kind of split duties whenever necessary. And, yeah, I had forgotten how sort of magical it is to have a little baby in the house. And so it's fun. It's been good. It's been good. It's good to I see why people like being grandparents because you know you don't have to always do all of the really difficult annoying things like I have yet to change a diaper. Not that I can't, not that I couldn't. um I've just somehow been lucky that I haven't had to do it. But if like I was the primary caregiver of the child, I certainly would have changed a diaper by now. So I like being a granddad. I even though yeah, it does mess with your sense of self. Yeah, I look forward to the spoiling. I look for see it's like I look forward to the spoiling, but I also feel guilty. Like, will I spoil this child more than I spoiled my daughter? Um, I don't think so. She was so I explained this the other day, but it bears repeating. My son, who is 21 years old now, we adopted him when he was 13. He was in the foster system. We were foster parents, and then we adopted him officially. So this is his son by his girlfriend, and we have a daughter of our own who is 17. And so, for most of her life, she's been an only child, except for the few years that our son lived with us. And so I imagine she's gotten spoiled plenty, even though it doesn't seem like it. She's one of those kids that doesn't really want anything, so it's always hard to figure out what to buy for her, what to get her, you know, for Christmas, birthdays, whatever. She likes little like figurines that she puts on her shelves. She likes books. She likes to play computer games. But after a certain point, I mean, you know, when it comes to big gift time, like there's not a lot of big gifts to give. I gave her So when I was reviewing the iPhone 12, I got the 12 Pro and the 12 as well as the 12 Pro Max. And so when the review period ended, I gave her my my 12 Pro for her birthday because her birthday's in November. And it's broken. And the SIM card tray, like I took the SIM card out to put it into another phone for her, and now the SIM card tray won't go all the way back in. So the screen is cracked and the SIM card tray won't go all the way back in. And I took it to a local like certified Apple repair place, and they were like, the screen cost $300. And then they said, if there's something messed up about the SIM card tray itself or the slot, that's part of the chassis. So then you're looking at something else entirely. And I was like, no, I didn't buy Apple Care on it because I was buying like 3 iPhones at the time. And so I was just kind of like, I just didn't get Apple Care. And then I probably, it might have, the deadline might have passed by the time I gave it to her, but I didn't even think about it. Because I've always been really pretty lucky with stuff and, paid for Apple Care several times and never had to use it. But lately, I mean, my MacBook Pro, I dropped a speaker on it, put a dent in the lid and like a little crease in the screen. And so I can barely get any money for it. And then, multiple broken iPhones from the daughter. None of them as expensive as this one, but iPhone XR broken, iPhone SE broken. She's using the iPhone X SE right now. She has, yeah. I underestimated the potential for even like the most conscientious of teenagers. I underestimated the potential for potential breakage of the phones. So yeah, it's kind of disappointing. So I don't know what to do with this phone, honestly. I guess I could sell it for parts for a few $100, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to look on eBay and see what they're going for just parts. But yeah, so I've got my new iPhone 12 Pro Max that I'm using right now. And public service announcement for all you people out there who, are going to put a screen protector on. I bought a new screen protector for the 12 Pro Max when I got it, right? And it was, I forget which brand, maybe Invisible Shield, like one of the Zag. I think it was Invisible Shield, one of the brands that's been around for a long time. And it was like $20. And I thought, well, that's a pretty good price for one of those. Usually they're pretty expensive. And so I got this, and it must not have any oleophobic coating on it whatsoever because it gets so effing greasy. And then I can't, it won't wipe off. I'm ready to take it off because I cannot stand a greasy phone screen. I can't stand a greasy phone. I had the Apple clear case on there because I wanted to see, I got the white phone, so I wanted to see the white. But the clear case is just that shiny plastic. It gets greasy and annoying and gross. And so I might just have to take this screen protector off and lose the $20 because I'd rather go without a screen protector than have this like smudgy looking thing all over the place all the time. The one thing about Apple Care, I didn't realize that the Apple Care, see, it says on the phone. So I haven't bought Apple Care for this phone yet because I'm stupid. On the phone, it says Apple Care coverage available. There are 59 days remaining to add Apple Care Plus to this phone. There are 42 days remaining to add Apple Care Plus coverage for the iPhone. You can add the coverage by going to Settings, General, About. So that's what it says here. I use now this is another thing. I'm a big fan of keeping my glasses clean. So I use a lot of microfiber cloths. Like I have microfiber cloths, like basically anywhere that I'm going to spend any time in the house. But microfiber cloths get greasy too. Like after a while, they don't work anymore. So yeah, I know I could get like a spritzer and I could wipe it down, but then I'd be doing that like 5 times a day. That was one thing. I mean, I switched from the S21 Ultra to this, and the S21 Ultra, I did not have a screen protector on it. and I had the silicone case that had the S Pen in it, and I never got annoyed by the greasiness. So I don't know. The one thing I like about Apple Care at this point right now is that they offer Apple Care on a monthly charge, as opposed to as opposed to just paying like whatever it is straight out. And so with that, I'm much more likely to get the Apple Care than not. I have Apple Care on my iPad Pro, which is like the only device that I have that I don't take out of the house. So, but I just went ahead and got it when I got it. So, but yeah, I get OCD about some things, and one of them is like greasy screen. It's just gross. I do have my MagSafe attached to my super desk over there, so I can charge and not have the phone like laying here. So that's nice. Yeah, I know. I do wash my hands pretty frequently, but especially this time of year, maybe I guess just gets like it's like oh look, Best Buy is reminding me about one of the topics I wanted to discuss. Thank you, Best Buy. The new Beats Studio Buds are available today. And once this live stream is over, I've got some shopping to do. I'm going to go out and I'm going to get a pair and check them out. Anybody out there interested at all in the new Beats Studio Buds? Anyone? Anyone? Uh, I'm. I mean, in reading about them, I will say that they have the features of AirPods that I like. You know, at least some of them. They have the open them up and they automatically connect and they do that thing. So I like that. They don't have the connect to all the other Apple devices that you have feature, which I don't like that. And so it'll be interesting. They've cut some corners to get to this $150 price point, obviously, and I'm wondering what the sound signature will be like, because at the end of the day, Beats have improved since Apple bought them, but they're still not awesome. So I'm gonna go check them out. I'll do a little story. I'll do a little YouTube short with the unboxing and first impressions, and then I'll have a review probably early next week sometime. So, oh, they have USB-C. I hadn't even checked. Yeah, I know. Sea Lions Man sold the S21 Ultra for the Note 10 Plus. I've noticed that you roll through phones pretty quickly, though. I mean, I feel you. I'm the same way. But I did really like the S21 Ultra. I liked it more than I'd liked pretty much any Samsung phone I've used in the past 4 or 5 years. The Note 9 was maybe the last one that I liked this much. So I guess that's like 3 or 4 years. But yeah, really good. Do they have active noise? Do they have active noise cancellation? That's a question. Let me look them up. Beats Studio Buds. See, even the internet on this computer is slow. It's really annoying me. Annoying me a lot. Okay, so wireless noise canceling, totally wireless noise canceling earphones. So let's see what they active noise cancellation. Okay, yeah. Easily switch to transparency mode. So if that works like it does for the AirPods Pro or the AirPods Max, then that'll be cool. Simple one-touch pairing for Apple and Android devices. Maybe that's why they left some of the features out, because Beats is not like a Apple specific brand, so they're throwing a bone to the people not using the Apple stuff. High quality performance with the calls and the voice interaction. IPX4 sweat and water resistant. 8 hours of listening time. 24 hours with the case charging, Siri hands free, uh, industry leading class 1 Bluetooth for extended range. I don't know what that is. USB C. So what's included? A Beats sticker. That's the listed first. Beats sticker. Studio Buds totally wireless noise canceling earphones. Charging case. Ear tips with 3 size option. Medium pre-installed. Quick start guide. USB-C to USB-C charging cable. Warranty card. No charger, but the charging cable. So hopefully you have a USB-C charging cable available. Or charging brick available, that is. What is the best smartphone resale site? I will say Swappa. I've sold a lot of stuff on Swappa. Swappa is a little bit more anal about how they do their selling, but I find it's a much better experience than doing it on it's a much better experience than doing it on, say, eBay or Craigslist or something like that. They make sure that your IMEI is not tied to payments anymore and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a good site. I like it. Can't wait for the XM4 review. Yeah, I was gonna get them, and then and then Best Buy was out of them, and I just haven't ordered them yet. They might have them now. Let's go back to the Best Buy website and see. Oh, they're not on the side here. Sony. There we go. WF1000 XM4s. Order now and pick up on Wednesday. Well, I could probably find them on Amazon or someplace. I'll get them. They'll be coming in. I'll get them. I'll review them. Meanwhile, we'll satisfy ourselves with the Beats. Yeah, Swappa really does give you a little bit of a peace of mind. When you list something on Swappa, you have to write down like your unique code for the sale and then take a picture of that, and then they approve your ad. And it's always like right away, and they have people that are actually working there, and they respond immediately to any questions or anything like that. It's pretty slick. I don't know how big an operation it is, but their customer service is like on point. Like there have been a couple of times where I've forgotten to put tracking information in with one of my sales, and somebody will say, "Hey, did this ship yet?" And Swappa person will be like, "Please remember to put this tracking information in." So they're on it. They're on it, making sure that you don't get screwed. Jonathan says, I feel like Beats Studio Buds took some things from the AirPods Pro, but also making a great option for Android. Price point is really good compared to others. I agree on all fronts. I think that it's yeah. I think there was some talk last year about some sort of $150 price point AirPods, and this is obviously the headphone that they're putting out in that spot. I like the fact that they are continuing to use the Beats line, and it looks like what they're going to do is they're going to use the Beats line for some of these different price points, but of course the AirPods line is going to be like a little bit more premium. They're going to occupy the more premium spots. So I'm anxious to see if they do a Studio Wireless 4. I'm anxious to see what that would be. I mean, they still have the Beats Pro, those like wired headphones. But I don't know if those are officially still available or if they just still have some to sell or what. Gordy asks, Jason, how is the channel doing since you've taken the audio route? So far it's doing okay, really. I mean, there was a time there where I was just kind of like, float like treading water. Subscriber numbers were staying about the same and stuff. Subscribers have picked up. Views on the videos have been okay. The thing about the channel a couple of years ago is, when everybody was into the, tech drama or whatever it was, and I was doing those videos. Those videos would pop off and go, for 100,000, 200,000 views relatively quickly. Not all the time, but when they did take off, they would take off. Videos are like, they're taking off more slowly now. They build views over time as opposed to like just shooting straight up. So, but it is somewhat of a rebuilding process as well. I mean, I was just really fortunate that Apple happened to be introducing these new audio features to Apple Music at the same time that I was wanting to pivot back toward audio. And it's helped me sort of bridge the gap, because I'm not just like, making a complete 180 and turning away. I can still talk about Apple. I can still talk about audio. So it's working out. It's working out okay. It's working out okay. I'm enjoying doing the content a little bit more. Well, not a little bit more. I'm enjoying doing the content. Not that I didn't enjoy doing the other content, but I just felt stuck. I felt like I was making content that I might not otherwise make, because I felt like it was the content that I had to make. And so it's just like a weird space to be in. So now I'm making stuff that I'm having fun with and that I'm interested in. So I guess that's that. Yeah, Apple and physics. I got a haircut. It was my first haircut in 2 years. My first official haircut. Like, I cut my own hair last year in March. So I went to the Great Clips, and Great Clips keeps like a little like, thing, like a little, I guess, profile on you. And the woman was like, "Hey, so you haven't been here for 2 years. Last time we did this. Do you want to do that again?" And I was just going to get the hair trimmed up. And I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever. Go ahead." So they did what they did. Can I recommend a good mic to record voice singing? Does the Shure MV7 do a good? I mean, I haven't tried the MV7, but the sound signature of the MV7 is similar to the SM7 that I'm using right now, and I love this mic for recording voice. So the MV7 would be a good the MV7 would be a good place to start. I would definitely check that out. I mean, it's $250. I don't think you're going to get the quality of it looks really good. I would watch Podcastage's review of it, because I think he has the most in-depth review of that mic and many others. But yeah, I would imagine that'd be a good place to start. Otherwise, if you were to go like a microphone and audio interface route, you'd be spending $250 at least. So it's worth checking out. I would definitely check that out. Let's see, what else do we got? Oh, Apple and Physics says this look is best for me. What, you don't like me looking like a crazy homeless person? I was cultivating the crazy homeless person look. I was going undercover. I have this LG V50 right here that I just charged up to use again for the first time in a while. So yeah, I still have it. I still have the Velvet, but the Velvet doesn't have the quad DAC, so I don't know. I might sell the Velvet. Maybe the beer flu has brought an influx of people, more content, harder to be picked up by the algorithm. That's part of it. I think also like ad revenue is down overall. I think YouTube's ad rates have probably changed because of everything. Companies aren't making as many products. Like, if you think about how many new phones from like flagship companies would have been released already by June, right? We have the S21 line. We would have had an LG phone by now, at least one. We would have probably had a Google phone or at least the announcement of a Google phone. I know we're going to get one, but it's not here yet. We're not going to get a Note phone this year. We are going to get folding phones, I guess, but I'm still not convinced, especially in this market, that folding phones are going to really do that much that much business. So there's not much to talk about on the smartphone end, and then I know like on the audio end and in a PC end and every place else, there's such a scarcity of products because there's a scarcity of materials to make the products that there's just not as much to talk about. I was watching a Paul's Hardware video the other day where he was doing a Q&A from his viewers, and one viewer asked, "Is Tech YouTube is our Tech YouTube channels dying?" And in a way, it's kind of true because there's just not as much to talk about. Like if you were a PC centric channel and most of your content was predicated on building PCs and reviewing PC parts, then you're struggling. And if you were focused on smartphones, like I had been for the past few years, there's not that much. And look at what's happened with folks who cover Apple. Or, I mean, how many leak videos can there be? I mean, now that media outlets are now reporting, I saw this headline yesterday, our best official look at the iPhone 13 from this like leak channel, like a not concept creator, but from a channel that does renders. And it's like, you cannot use the word official. Official is a word that means it is factually based, and none of this stuff is factually based to my knowledge. So yeah, this is still like a weird time for tech, and I don't really know what's going to happen with Tech YouTube. Of course, the bigger channels are going to be able to continue to do well, but if you look at what a lot of bigger channels are doing, look at Michael Fisher has started concentrating a lot more on retro phones as a big part of his content. Marquez Brownlee has been doing more like auto stuff and just sort of branching out his content. Austin Evans seems to have just become a sponsored channel. He only does sponsored content now, which whatever. But yeah, it's just Jonathan Morrison is moving away from it entirely and doing music related stuff. So it's definitely a weird time for people who focus on tech because there's just not as much to cover as there used to be. So Apple in Physics says, found your content to be very unique because there are many YouTubers who always go for the positives in case of a product, but you always see products as a regular customer. Oh, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. I mean, my whole thing has always been to just realistically represent what a thing is. It doesn't always lead to tons of subscribers or anything like that, because people watch videos about tech or anything else really on YouTube or anywhere else. Some people watch it for information. Some people watch it to like have their purchase decision reinforced, right? They already bought the thing. They want to hear good things about it. And so my stuff falls into this weird in between where, if you're still on the fence, then, maybe my content helps. But if you just want to hear good things, you're going to be mostly disappointed. And, I don't know. For those who want me to say good things, I apologize. Do I think it's going to be an iPhone 13 or 12s? That is a good question. Ultimately, it doesn't matter because it's still the next iPhone, right? So it really doesn't make a difference. Do I think it's going to be a big shift in design or anything else? No, I think it'll be, as all smartphones are these days, a straight up incremental update. There won't be anything surprising or exciting about the next iPhone. You've heard it here first. I can be an Apple leaker too. Yeah, no, there's not going to be anything worth writing home about this next iPhone. It's going to be an iPhone, just like all the other iPhones with a faster. Will they put the M1 chip in there? I don't know. Uh, Capono wants a Capono wants 120 hertz and always on display. Well, you might get 120 hertz. You might. I think the technology has been holding Apple back from 120 hertz, but it's more likely that it'll come this year. But I also wouldn't hold my breath, nor would I trust anybody who tells you one way or the other, that they're sure one way or the other. Always on display is likely never going to happen on an Apple phone for reasons I don't quite understand, but Apple's got raised to wake, and then they've also got tap to like see what's going on, right? So tap, yep. So I think that ultimately we're not going to see always on display for the iPhone. But then again, maybe. I mean, 90 hertz is possible as well. See, the thing that people always seem to forget is that it's not necessarily about the hertz, 120 or 90 or 60. It's about the polling rate as like your finger touches the screen, right? And iPhones and iPads have had like a variable polling rate for their screens where it activates as you touch the screen, and then that's what makes it smoother or not. So it just doesn't sit there at 120 hertz or 90 hertz or whatever. It uses a higher refresh rate when necessary. But ultimately, 120 hertz is nice, but I don't think that 90% of everybody would notice it. So, let's see. Reading. What do you think? Whose era is better for Apple, Steve Jobs or Tim Cook? Steve Jobs' era was 100% better for innovation and for sort of pushing the envelope. But Tim Cook is obviously a much superior business person, and he's taken them to places that Steve Jobs most likely never could in terms of their market share, et cetera, et cetera. I do think that with the M1 chip and some of the other things that Apple's got going on, I do think that it's quite possible that the next phase of Apple could technologically outstrip the Steve Jobs era. I mean, one thing about Apple products was that they were always held back one way or either by software or by hardware. Never seemed to like totally put together, right? If they get the software and the hardware of these M1 chips and this whole new architecture, if they get them both working together well right from the start, then the sky's the limit. I mean, Apple really could run away with the computer industry, because no average person who only needs a computer for basic stuff is gonna I can't see, unless you specifically need a PC for PC reasons, I can't see Apple's market share not growing exponentially with this new architecture and the possibilities and potential that these computers have. I mean, already the M1 Macs are more computer than 90% of everybody would ever need at their base model level. So I can't even imagine what they're going to be capable of when they get faster chips, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think that Apple is poised to like make a huge leap forward. And I think that's part of why Windows, why Microsoft is bringing out Windows 11, even though Windows 11 looks like it's just like a, new window dressing, pun intended, I guess. Microsoft wants to have something to compete with. They want people to be talking about Windows as well, and all of the press has been about Apple. And until Intel can break out of the sort of limitations that they have, Windows is going to fall behind. I mean, the brute force and power of what Windows can do in terms of, niche computing tasks and gaming, that will always be valuable. But I have a feeling that Apple will have professional solutions as well that are quite as it's going to be an interesting next like 18 to 24 months. So let's see, reading. See, the thing is, like, Tim Cook's job isn't really to be innovative. Tim Cook, his job was to take something that was already really, really good, right? A company that had great products that were only going to get better as time went on, and to make sure he didn't fuck it up. To make sure that he made more money from it, right? That he improved their position business wise to be able to make money. So I think on that front, Tim Cook has done a great job. I mean, he's very he might be boring, but he's very steady. He seems to like, there doesn't seem to be any kind of like huge, one thing you can say about Steve Jobs' time is that there were moments of drama, but at the same time, and there hasn't been all that much. I mean, even Johnny Ive leaving, which I think was probably internally a bigger deal and sort of more animosity than we were ever allowed to see. Johnny Ive leaving just kind of happened, and nobody, there was no tell-all books or 60 Minutes interviews or anything like that. Johnny Ive just left. And, of course, he's still supposedly working with Apple, but I don't know. I haven't you don't hear that name very often anymore. So your wife makes fun of your 10,000 milliamp hour Zero Lemon case. Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got a phone the size of a paving brick. That's make funnable for sure. Sold all your Apple stuff except for the kids who have iPhones. See, here's a prediction. If your kids have iPhones, eventually you will get all your Apple stuff back. Because that's ultimately what happens for me. Like, it's in order for the family to be able to communicate easily. I mean, iMessage and FaceTime and all that kind of stuff is so much better than any of the alternatives. In fact, that was one of the big reasons why I decided I wanted to go back to an iPhone again, is that, just little things like being able to text my wife, my daughter, people that I know, friends that I have, and I can do it. Like, I can get it right here on the computer. I can get it on my iPad. I can get it on the phone. I can get it on my watch. I can get it all over the place. And it's just so much more convenient from a lifestyle standpoint. And it's easier to communicate with my family. So yeah, I think whatever way your kids go until your kids are old enough to buy their own phones is what is the direction the family ends up going eventually. Moomin says, it does seem like people are fixated on the M1 chip. Yes, it's a great achievement, but a top-end Windows PC is hardly a slouch, and even Chromebooks are fast enough for a lot of people. See, that's not the point, though. That's not the point. This is the M1 chip signifies an entire paradigm shift for Apple, because Apple has always been the lifestyle brand that's more expensive than they should be, right? That's been the case on Apple for all these years. But now suddenly Apple is releasing computers that are more powerful than the computers that they released the year before that cost $3,500, and doing it at like, so if you go to Max Tech and you watch their comparison um, of the M1 chips against the Intel computers from the previous year, you'll see that like the $1,400 MacBook Air is competing with the 64 gigabyte version of the MacBook Pro that costs $3,500. That's the big deal. I mean, yes, top end PC can do all the things that you want it to do, and a Chromebook can do a lot of stuff really fast because the operating system is very slim and quick. But this, when you talk specifically about Apple has always been that sort of premium brand that nobody would reasonably want to touch, and that's why they would buy a better spec PC for the same price. But you can't buy a better spec PC for the same price now. You just can't. I mean, yes, there are instances where a PC is more useful to a particular user, but if you're just comparing apples to apples, like what a baseline Mac can do compared to what a baseline PC can do, then Apple has entered an entirely new place, and it's never been there. Apple's never been in this position before. I mean, they are poised to take over the casual computer user, non-power user market. Like, they're poised to like blow reasonably priced Windows computers out of the water. So Sea Lions Man says the problem is the Apple products for some reason don't work the best out here. Cell reception is better on Samsung or Pixel. Well, yeah, I mean, in if that's your specific case, then I get it. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Now, so JCP 006 says Apple is more centered on user experience. Samsung is more focused on gimmick features. You know, Apple has always been more focused on user experience. I mean, that's their whole deal. That's why iOS works the way it does. That's why macOS works the way it does. It was always about user experience and sort of reverse engineering backwards from that place. But I will say that in the past 2 or 3 years, Samsung has improved One UI. Samsung has, pared back on some of the kooky features, and like the S21 Ultra was a really great phone to use. It was really easy. It didn't make me jump through hoops and do any of the things that really frustrated me about specifically Samsung's brand of Android. So yeah, I think that Samsung has come a long way in being less about gimmicks and being better about the user experience. Moomin says, but prices are relative. US prices are much different to the rest of the world. You also can't discount the GPUs in PCs. Well, depending on how you want to compare things, everything is relative. But if you want to talk about, I mean, for me, where I am and what I know, US market, PCs versus Apple, it's always been you can get more PC for the same money. And now on the lower end to the mid tier, I don't think that's the case. I think that there's parity there between the M1 machines and any mid-tier PC. And when you're talking mid-tier PC, you're not really talking GPU anyway. Maybe you're talking about like a mobile 1650 or something like that, or 1660, but you're not talking like super powerful GPUs. Now, right now, we can't talk about the M1 chip as it relates to a more powerful pro level computer because there is no pro level M1 computer. So we can only take these base models, these consumer focused models, and compare them to what Windows has to offer as well. And I think that for the first time in history, Apple offers more at that price point than Windows. That's my opinion. So, I mean, Apple appears to be driven to conquer the Intel business device stranglehold. Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to admit that it is not only Apple. I mean, Apple was using Intel products. Intel themselves and what they do, right? Intel's problem is that they have not been able to keep up with the doubling time of the technology. So Apple was always waiting on Intel to get them the chips that they needed to release their products. And it was creating this backlog, right? And Apple was beholden to the Intel development schedule, and now they're not. Now they've developed their own thing, and they've jumped out way ahead of Windows or Intel, I guess, to the point where Intel is like making ads about Intel is like making really embarrassing ads about Apple for no reason. Intel's not even trying to sell anything. Um, so I mean, if game developers started developing for Apple, then that would be a whole different thing. And when you think about the fact that mobile gaming is based on ARM chips in the first place, then it's quite possible that a large majority of gaming could be as easily played on an Apple machine as a Windows machine, right? It's the AAA stuff that all the infrastructure is built on. All the infrastructure is built on that Windows x86 architecture, right? And that would be a huge switch over. But I think that there's still a lot of room. I mean, mobile gaming, the majority of people in the world play mobile games. So I think the mobile game market is larger than the PC market, even probably the console market. So being able to play mobile games on a Mac could be a big deal and could sway the gaming industry. So Ionis says, I hate Apple for a lot of reasons, but their tools and integration between them makes my life easier. I did my revolution against the evil giant in the 90s by using Linux exclusively. Yeah, I mean, I was just complaining about that same thing. You know, I'd been on Windows for the past like 3 months and enjoying it, but I missed Final Cut and I missed Logic, and I wanted to be able to use a universal audio interface, you know, that in the hopes that it wasn't going to be a big pain in the rear end. But right now, being on Big Sur with this MacBook is making my life miserable. So I got to figure out what to do next. I hate this period of time with Apple where it's like you can't get the new stuff because nothing works on it. And if you try and upgrade the old stuff, it starts to get messed up as well. Like when I worked, so my old job, I had a 15-inch MacBook Pro from 2015, and I think Apple was like 2 versions of the operating system ahead of where I was on my work computer because it took that long for some things to be reliably supported on the newer versions of the operating system. So I was stupid when I updated. updated a Big Sur. But that's how it goes. Most Windows use is still in the office, so that would have to switch for Apple to make major gains. Home use of laptops, desktops are in decline because of mobile OS. You know, I think that one of the reasons, and probably one of the only reasons, well, I mean, there's a vestigial thing with Windows. Windows had Office. Office was the best productivity suite of apps for business, right? And you couldn't reliably run Office on a Mac. This is years and years and years ago. Then they developed Office for the Mac, and it's still not quite as good as Windows Office, but still, what I think is going to happen now is part of the reason that businesses didn't buy Apple, other than that sort of vestigial reliance on the Windows Office suite, is that the Windows computers that you would buy for people to use at their desktops in a workplace were super less expensive than what you would have to buy in a Mac, like say an iMac or something like that. So now, with what the Mac Mini can do, with the iMac 24-inch being relatively inexpensive, and now there's not really a software barrier like there had been in the past, I think that there's the possibility that Windows could be in trouble on like the enterprise side as well. But you know, if Apple could develop a reliable anti-cheat for Warzone, then I would be there in a minute. You just got to play on console. There's no cheating on console. So Franklin says, I'm not sure there's much demand for mobile gaming on Macs. Mobile gaming is only big due to it being accessible. Quality of most of those games isn't great. That wasn't my point. I don't think that people are going to play mobile games on a Mac. I think that since mobile games are built on an ARM architecture, just like what the Mac now has, that it may open up the potential to build much more desktop worthy games in that space. So I don't see people like playing Candy Crush on the Mac, but I see the potential for mobile, like ARM based game development to really take off potentially. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about like the comparison between mobile gaming and what's possible on the Mac. It's not that people will play mobile games on the Mac. Apple would need to gain buy-in from business intelligence and data warehouse application platforms. I mean, there are plenty of businesses that run Apple, that run Macs exclusively. But I see what you're saying. It just might be that there are different solutions for an Apple-based workplace for those particular things than what might be there for a Windows-based system right now. But I mean, I just see that Apple, I guess what I'm saying ultimately is that Apple has improved their market position in a lot of different areas where their market position was weak because of their pricing structure, because they were somewhat niche in what they were capable of doing. They've now opened themselves up in those market positions to be much more competitive. And because they're going to be much more competitive, I mean, to me, the writing is on the wall. If Intel doesn't figure out a way to make great leaps forward and make Windows more attractive, Apple is going to just blow the doors off. And they're going to be in a lot of places where they haven't been traditionally, and they're going to be really attractive to a lot of consumers that they haven't been attractive to before because they were too pricey, right? No, I don't necessarily want Apple to take over either. I'm admiring their, like, what they've been able to do to put themselves in this position. I'm admiring like the cat and mouse game of this entire thing. This is like, Apple's playing chess here. And I feel like Intel's been playing checkers for the past 10 plus years. And it's Intel specifically that is having, I mean, Intel's getting their lunch eaten by AMD as well. AMD is pushing Intel just as hard as Apple is now. AMD has been pushing them just as hard as they have been now for a couple of years. So it's yeah, it's going to be a very interesting couple of years. That much is for sure. Gordy says, with the audio videos, why don't you do some gaming videos as well? I mean, I started out doing like gaming headphone stuff. I have a lot of gaming headsets that I need to review for the channel. I've done some gaming videos that have done well, but I haven't done them for a while. So it might be possible, but it's just, I just haven't done it for a while. So it would be another sort of growth thing. I would have to regrow that limb of the tree, which ultimately would probably be good. I mean, YouTube is so weird. On one hand, people say niche down. If you're going to talk about one thing, talk about only that thing. But I feel like that's a recipe for disaster. Because once you talk about one thing so much, people either get tired of hearing that one thing, or B, you run out of things to talk about. And so that's the problem. That's why I look at channels. So I'm about to hit 200,000 subs. I look at channels that are like, 300, 500,000 subs and onward. And what I see is, well, like Front Page Tech being a great example. Front Page Tech has niched down really, really hard to do only the Apple leaks. And that has gained them like 150,000 new subscribers in the time that I've just been sitting here doing nothing. But those are golden handcuffs, though, from a growth standpoint. But I think one of the smartest things that they did, and they just did it recently, was they launched the Front Page Tech website. And it seems like the Front Page Tech website is going to be much more diverse in how it covers tech. And that diversification, giving them another platform, like that's a smart move. And I looked over what they were covering and all that kind of stuff on the website. And I think that that's going to be their out when it comes to only being an Apple leak channel. So I see them building really well. And I hope it works. I hope it works, because it's not until after you get like to the 500,000 million area where you have a little bit more leeway to talk about more broad topics in tech. If you look at Supersaf, if you look at other folks, like, they can talk about cars and people will watch the video. They can talk about TVs and people will watch the video. Marquez can talk about his shoelaces. People would watch the video. But part of that is just by virtue of scale, right? I mean, they have to make videos that people want to make or people want to watch, but they have such a huge scale that, at 10 million subscribers, if you get 10% of your audience to watch, that's a lot of people. And that's going to trigger the algorithm, and that's going to get you, like on average, like 14% of my subscribers watch my videos, right? Which, and that's like a chunk of who watches the videos. Um, but I mean, if you have 10 million subscribers and you get and you get 14%, then you're off to the races with every video, right? So it's an economy of scale that ends up happening. So Franklin, do you think that the M1 iPads could replace computers in most businesses? They're certainly powerful enough to do so and relatively affordable. I so I think yes in certain cases. So one thing about the iPad right now is like I think about so I worked at the university like College of Medicine, which was part of the medical complex, right? And so there are a lot of niche markets that already have iPad apps developed that will allow them to do more for their work than if they were carrying around like a traditional laptop. And the medical field is one of those. Sales is another one of those. There are a lot of places where iPads are already in heavy use. Now, if you could take that iPad and give it the power of a desktop and make it, so that your sales force or your doctors and nurses don't have to like use the iPad and then sit down at the computer, then there's a huge possibility there. But as folks are saying, the software, unfortunately, overall, iPad OS is not it's not developed enough. It's still too close to being a mobile operating system. But I do think that if you're talking like people who have more clerical style jobs or something like that, and their computer use is low impact, I do think it's like super possible that the iPad is not far away from that. But Apple has to shit or get off the pot when it comes to the operating system. The operating system either has to be a professional level operating system, whether it's Mac OS or something more stout than iPad OS. They have to make a choice, and I don't know what I don't know what that choice is going to be. So, yes, there's a huge potential for iPads to take over a lot of the computing for a lot of the workforce. And in fact, like I said, there's already a lot of really specialized stuff developed for the iPad that would make that even more possible. But I just don't think that, there's that sort of uncanny valley between iPad and a real computer that we haven't crossed yet. Do I use an iPad? Yes. I have a 2018 12.9-inch iPad Pro. I have the Magic Keyboard. And basically, I'll use it to like do some writing. I'll use it to check email sometimes. Most of the time, it's like I'm watching YouTube videos in bed or reading a book or reading magazines, something like that. I don't use it for like heavy lifting. Could I use it for heavy lifting? I mean, maybe. I don't know. But the thing is, like, I would love to try and run my studio off an iPad. I would love to. I would love to try and do like all of my video work, all of my editing from an iPad. I would love to do that. But the two tools that I know the best and I like to use the most are Final Cut and Logic Pro. And I can't use either of those on an iPad. So that sort of takes the iPad out of contention, unless I want to, like many people that I know, use a similar program that is built for the iPad, like LumaFusion. And I know that I'm not going to use GarageBand by any stretch of the imagination, but I know that there are tools that you can use for music on the iPad as well. I don't know if I want to go that far into it, especially when I've built an infrastructure around a computer. Now, if you've got a computer chip in there and enough memory and, well, yeah, sure, I would use it, but they're not letting us do that. They're not letting us do that. What do I think about budget smartphones these days? I mean, here's what we know about budget smartphones right now. For the first time ever, Samsung sent out their A series line of phones to reviewers. They made advertisements for them. They did all kinds of stuff to promote the A series line of phones. They're sort of like next tier down from the S series phones. And they'd never done that before. It says two things. A, they've gotten much, much better. And B, not very many people are buying flagships anymore. And Samsung wants to keep those people buying Samsung phones. So the age of the flagship being like top of the heap in the smartphone industry has ended. I mean, even with the iPhone, it used to be you got an iPhone and it was just the one phone and it cost this much money, depending on what storage you wanted to get. And then there was the iPhone Plus. Now there's the SE, the Mini, the 12, the Pro, the Pro Max. I mean, these are all like current models. You can buy an iPhone starting at $400 and it's still everything, it doesn't have the best screen. It doesn't have, Face ID. It doesn't, whatever, but it has the same chip as the other iPhones. And there's not much that separates it from the rest of the iPhone lineup. So the 11, the 12, these are the phones that Apple sells the most. That's why they call them the iPhone. So I think that budget phones are no longer budget phones. I think the budget phones are the phones, and the flagship phones are the outliers entirely. Flagship phones are now for the geeks. Average people don't want to spend that money. Average people don't care about those features that would predicate them having to spend that money. So it's kind of like, why buy a Lexus when you can buy a Toyota Corolla, right? Budget phones are now mid-range automobiles. So, yeah, I mean, certainly you could buy Avalon. It's bigger, it's nicer, et cetera, et cetera. But, the Corolla is more affordable and lasts just as long most of the time. The quality is not really any less. The accoutrement inside and outside might be a little bit better, but a Toyota is a Toyota. Moomin says budget phones can be good, especially when they're running stock Android. It's a lot lighter, but I think a budget phone being under $200. Okay, well, yeah, I guess I'm thinking more like mid-tier phones being in and around the $500 mark. Like Google finally found a space for the Pixel with the A series phones, right? So $350, $450. The budget, I think that the budget phones at $250 now are much, much more viable than they were even like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. But yeah, TCL is sort of making that argument. They don't have a phone that costs more than $500, and they've got 3 different phone lines or 3 different phones in their lineup. So yes, indirectly, I'm saying that budget phones or mid-range phones or whatever you want to call them, are the quote unquote flagships of today. They're the phones that the majority of people are buying. And flagships are always going to be flagships in terms of what they can do. They're always going to have the most bells and whistles. They're always going to have the nicest materials. They're always going to, usually have the fastest processors and that kind of thing. But you don't need that anymore. Most people only need a phone that, will make phone calls, send texts, watch YouTube, and take decent pictures, and not be too slow or annoying about it. And you can get that for a pretty low price these days. So I think the mid range to budget range is going to be the battleground for the next sort of wave of smartphones, right? Who can make the best, least expensive phone? And honestly, once again, Apple is incredibly well positioned to sit in that $500 price range and have a really compelling product. They have a really compelling product, whether it's the SE or the mini, or, well, I mean, the mini is going by the wayside, although I do agree that it's probably a underappreciated version of the iPhone. But the regular 12 and like the iPhone 12, starting at like what, $600, they've got a super compelling lineup of phones that it's going to be really hard for companies to compete with. I mean, Apple's put themselves again in a really strong position in that market segment, just like they have with their computers now. So we shall see. We shall see. I mean, I know when I talk about this stuff, I'm talking about the North American market because I'm in North America. And also that's the market that I know. And I know that Apple products are not nearly as affordable in other places in the world. And I know that Apple would love for that to change. I don't know that it will or how, but yeah, I think that I think that $500 range is where everybody's going to be fighting for market share, which is why I don't really understand LG leaving the smartphone game, because LG was always really competitive under $500. They had the Stylo. They had a bunch of different lines of phones that were pretty decent, phones, and they sold a lot of them. I mean, LG was the number 3 seller of smartphones in North America. I mean, they were a distant third. They were like 13% of the market share, but they were number 3. So the fact that they left altogether is curious when you think about it that way. So yeah, I it's going to be an interesting couple of years on a lot of different fronts. So Nicholas says SE and Mini would be fine if they had 1080p bigger screen. Well, see, this is sort of the thing about the SE and the Mini and these smaller phones. When Apple developed the Retina display, right? The Retina display was the marketing word that they came up with for a display that had the most dense number of pixels visible to the human eye. Well, the most pixel density to the point where it's no longer visible to the human eye, right? So more pixels beyond that is arguably superfluous. So that's what the Retina display was all about. Not being able to see at a proper reading distance the pixels on the screen. That was the Retina display. And so when you look at the both the aspect ratio and the screen size of the Mini and the SE, 1080p is not really the measurement. It's the pixel density that's the measurement. If the pixel density is such that being 1080p wouldn't improve the visuals, then it's not that big a deal. And a lot of people don't understand that because Android talks about it in a different way. Android, has sort of taught us to think in pixel density as the end all be all. But after a certain point, just like with 120 hertz, it's very difficult to tell the difference between 1080p and 4K or 1440. And when you have a smaller screen, 780 or whatever those smaller screens are is the same as 1080p without being 1080p. Same pixel density, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm generalizing here, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying. Moomin, you're exactly right. That's why I don't understand if LG was mostly selling budget range phones, mid-range phones, and mid-range phones is where the market's going. I don't understand why they left, but they did. So I mean, there's probably a lot of reasons, but Iona says that $500 for around 7 years of iOS support. It's very compelling. Yes, and you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're talking a $500 phone that's going to get upgrades for 5 to 7 years, and the hardware is stout enough to last that long, then it's a very compelling argument, because what Android phone do you know of that gets that kind of support? And at that price range, what Android phone do you know of that has that kind of build quality to last that long? There aren't that many. So, I mean, it's Android phones to a certain extent have always been a little bit disposable. And part of it was early on because Android was developing leaps and bounds year over year, that you didn't want to keep the phone from 2 years ago because the phone from this year is so much better, right? But now we've hit this sort of plateau, and Android phones are still lagging behind in their software support. And as JCP says here, iPhone resale is much better than Android, and it's for the exact reason that I just said. Like, when I sold my first iPhone 12 Pro Max that I paid $10.99 for, I sold it for $1,000, like $975 or something like that. And that it's an Android phone is like driving a new car off the lot. It loses 25 to 30% of its value just when you take it out of the box, right? So, I mean, because smartphones are not coming out as often, and because the used market is becoming more competitive, I was able to get, I think I got $800 for my S21 Ultra, but still $800 for a $1,200 phone less than 6 months after it was released is really not a good value. Really not a good value at all. Like that's 30, 25, 30%. Not good. Not good. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, because at the end of the day, like Anna says here, 6S from 2015 is still going to be supported on iOS 15. Now let's remember that phone, when it came out, was on iOS 9, I believe, maybe iOS 8. And that's yeah. And the only trouble that you run into with a 6S or a 7 or probably an 8 at this point is battery degradation, but it's cheap and easy to get the batteries replaced these days. So what Apple realizes is it does them a lot more good in this day and age, in this market. It does them a lot more good to have iPhones in everybody's pockets. Like, the selling of the phone isn't going to make them as much money as the selling of the services that go along with the phone. So we've sort of left the hardware age and entered into the software and service age, where the majority of the money that's being made is through selling services. The internet and bandwidth has matured to the point where everything is possible wirelessly. I mean, we've been talking about lossless audio on the channel quite a bit. 5 years ago, it wouldn't have been possible to stream even over Wi-Fi, it would have been really difficult to stream lossless audio files over the internet or over the air to your phone. But now it's possible, right? So Apple is sort of like, I don't know if they always saw this part of the marketplace, see this curve in the road, but they've positioned themselves really well to be there and take this curve in the road with a lot more steam than a lot of Android manufacturers. I mean, Android manufacturers are dropping off. Like I said, the number 3 seller of Android phones in the United States went out of business, basically. I mean, certainly LG still exists, but they don't exist in the smartphone market anymore. So, yeah, smartphones are now going to be commodities, and a commodity. One of the major aspects of value in a commodity is how long does that commodity last? Like, what sort of long-term value can you get out of it? What is its useful lifespan? And the answer to that for Android phones is unfortunately not as good an answer as what the iPhones have. So, Moomin has an Android tablet that still gets updates from the Play Store. Yeah. I mean, I'm missing like the smaller form factor tablets. Like the Note phones. I mean, there's plenty of phones as big as the Note now, but one thing I liked about the Note phones early on was that they were almost the same screen size as a Kindle, and so you could almost get away with using them as an e-reader. But I miss, like, I know that there's still an iPad Mini, but I miss there being that sort of smaller form factor tablet that could be used much more easily for that kind of use. But I just don't think that there's enough money in smaller form factor tablets anymore for them to be. I mean, when you can sell a 10.9 inch iPad for $300, and the iPad Mini costs $400, then it doesn't really make sense to make the iPad Mini anymore. Anyway, geez, I'm almost at 2 hours. So I'm going to get out of here so I can get on with the day, go grab that set of earbuds from those Beats and get some other stuff done. I haven't had breakfast yet. Oh my God, what the hell's going on? Anyway, so I'm going to jump off. You guys have been awesome today. Thanks so much for hanging out, and thanks so much for the questions, comments, discussion. Once again, as you know, my name is Jason. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Friday morning coffee with the Tech Talk. Until the next